Okay, so let us just go ahead. See, I hope everybody is able to see this thing. So how the course will go on is, I will be taking a class in this mode. This will be a Word document in which I will be writing a class as if I am writing on the class board. Is that okay? And this entire thing will be uploaded in OneNote. I have created a OneNote in Teams in which for each day you will go and find the notes of that day. Is that okay? Am I making myself clear? This will be the way in which the class goes. So the recording will be available in the Teams, and then in OneNote you will have the idea of whatever is discussed in the class. Is that okay? I hope I am
Yes.
making myself very clear. I have created the OneNote class book in your Teams. I have created that. So you can just go to your class notebook. You can go to teachers content. You will get date wise all the notes. This is the way in which the class is going to happen. So whoever misses the class on account of placement or anything, they have to look into the recordings and then correspond it with the class notes in OneNote. So this will be the way in which the course goes. So today already we have lost 2 classes because of your labs. Let us just start off with this. In RF engineering, right? So what do you expect? My handwriting is bit bad, but I will assure you that since I didn't write for 2 months, my handwriting went away. In 2 or 3 days, it will be good. What do you expect in this subject? So this is the first question that we have to answer. See, if you take a we have to go back to our transmission lines and waveguides. Akash T. Akash T.
Yes, sir.
Is my voice audible?
Yes, sir.
Is my voice audible?
Yes, sir. It's audible.
Yeah. And what I'm writing, is it also clear?
It's visible, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Akash. Thank you. So let us just see. We are going to leave or the idea of transmission lines to a bit. We need the transmission line concept. We are going one step ahead of it. You can name this subject as applied electromagnetic engineering. Electromagnetic engineering also. Right, that is, we are going to still now, what did we study till now? What did we study in your entire BTech course? Study in EM, right? You studied Maxwell's equation, right? You studied about Maxwell's equations. Then you studied telegrapher's equation. Hope you remember these things. These are the basic TL line equations. Telegrapher's equations, right? And just a minute. Just 1 second. Just 2 minutes. Please give me 1 minute time, please.
Next question is okay. Then next question. Tell me about
So
the process for
you would have studied telegrapher's equations, and then we would have studied TL analysis, right? Then we had a small introduction about waveguides, right? And then you have an idea of antennas. Some of you would have taken some idea of antennas, though we have not studied. Now all these things are fine. Now what we are going to do is clear. You have a basic communication system. Right, where you have a transmitter, right? You have an antenna, and you have a receiver.
Then tell me about
right.
where
So
we are using Sigma.
this is point A, and this is point B. Either it was wireless or you could have had a wired also. Right, between A to B, either you had wireless or you had wired. Right, so the idea was we were fundamentally interested only in this area. That is the beauty there.
Okay, what do you mean alpha parameter?
Getting it?
Sigma point.
This is the idea. We were fundamentally worried about the link between A and B. This was what we were actually trying. Right. For wireless link, you studied something called as plane wave propagation.
Then last question, tell me about
Right. So for wired, you studied transmission lines or waveguides. Right. So this was what we were actually doing. Clear. Till now, what we were doing is we were worried about how to transport an electromagnetic wave from one point to another point. What will happen when you transport an electromagnetic wave? Or if you put it through a wired system, what will happen? Right. Jai Hari, am I making things clear? Is the flow okay?
Yes, sir. It's perfect, sir.
Perfect. Okay, good. Right. So this was what you were trying to do now. Now, let me just get an idea here. The idea is antenna. We will be studying in this subject. Antenna, you can just take it as a component that will we will be studying that. But anyway, just have an idea here. This was what we were studying throughout. Clear. Now, in our present subject, right, what you are going to study is in 15 ECE 402. Right, we are going to concentrate on the transmitter and receiver sides.
Okay. You could answer about 60%.
Right, clear? What is there on the transmitter and receiver side? What is there on TX and RX side? Right, basically electronic components, but we need to understand what they are. Right, so let us now look into it. So a transmitter, I'm going to make the block. You have message, right? Then you have this processing. Clear? This will be either encryption, right? Modulation, shift keying. I think you would have studied all these things in digital communication, shift keying or whatever may be the process, right? And finally, you have to give it to a power amplifier, right? Whatever you do with the wave, clear, that's all okay. Then finally you have to give it to an antenna, right? So let us just cut at this point. Right now, this part is called as baseband, or where you process the information. Clear? And this part is called as the RF. Sorry, I'll just take another ink. This is called RF. Clear? So this is the idea, baseband and RF. You have to understand two terms. Now let us just take at the receiver side. At the receiver side, you have an antenna and you have the first stage RF amplifier, right? Then you give it to information processing. Right here you can tell it as demodulation or decryption, whatever you want. Decryption, clear, filtering, all these things. So here also we will divide at this point. Clear? He is called as again baseband. Right, and he is called as the RF part. Clear? So if a company person comes and asks you what is meant by a baseband processing and what is meant by RF processing, you should be very clear with this. Clear? In our basic and fundamental communication system, you have the message, which may be an audio or a video, and you do lots of processing with this. All these processings you would have studied with analog communication and digital communication. And at this point, I'll call it as the point X. At the point X, you have a signal, right? And this signal has to be transported. Clear? Similarly, here also, I'll tell this point. At point Y, you have a signal. Clear? Right? So our idea is this signal, the final idea is making it through a power amplifier and putting it in an antenna, putting it into a medium, the receiver receives it, gives a first stage processing, and then gives it to information processing. So this idea of, so you should have identified which is RF. So should identify, should know which is RF, which is called RF part. Right now, why the name RF came? Why the name RF came? Because, right, for wireless transmission, right, we needed EM concepts. Clear? So they were using, so in the entire EM spectrum, clear? So if you start from 0 Hertz and it goes on and on and on. So here maybe you have 100 megahertz. Clear? You have 1 gigahertz. Right? It goes on like that. So predominantly people were using frequencies here. They were used for transmission. So this was called low frequencies. and this was called radio frequency, right? Because the traditional radio operated there, that's all, no big deal there. Traditional radio operated there. So we are just going along with this idea. So you should now be in a position to identify what is RF and what is baseband. Clear? In a wired system, clear? For a wired system, clear? For a wired system, there is no RF component. Right? We call it as baseband transmission also. We call it baseband transmission. Clear? No more this putting it on a carrier and all and taking it there, nothing like that. Clear? So this is the idea there at point X and point Y. You have to now slowly understand what we are going to study. So at transmitter at point X, the message is loaded onto a carrier. And made ready for transmission. Clear? At receiver at point Y, the message has to be received in good condition. So this is the idea that we have to know. So I'll just give you a small analogy. A small analogy is, right, you write a letter, right, in coded form. Clear? Put it into a cover. Right? Clear? And then send. So this is baseband. And this is RF. Clear? At receiver, what happens? At receiver, clear, you have to receive the cover. Right? The cover may be damaged during transmission. The cover may be damaged. Right? You have to receive correctness and give it to processing. Clear? So this could be a good way of looking at it. Lahari.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Are you getting the flow of what I am taking in the class today?
Yes, sir.
What in the fun from the big idea of communication system, are you able to, I am narrowing down to one part called RF part. Do you get it?
Yes, sir. I understood it, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Lahari. Thank you. Clear? So now what we should slowly go here is, slowly the introductory thing is not over. We should understand many terms here. So if you take a transmitter side, now I will just put it as BB baseband, and then You have good number of systems here. I will call it front end. This term you have to understand. Front end RF. Clear? And there is an antenna. And at the receiver side also you have a front end. And then to processing. BB processing. BB means baseband. Clear? So our subject is going to worry about this thing. All right, this is our focus. Right? Mainly on you have to now be clear with the word front end RF systems. Front end RF systems. And what do these front end RF systems do? What do they do? What do these do? What do they do? If you ask me, clear? They get the signal ready for actual physical transmission. Actual physical transmission. Clear? They receive the signal and ensure that it is the correct signal. Clear? So this is the idea. So at transmitter part, there may be a set of amplifiers. Set of amps. Clear? At receiver, there may be a collection of amplifiers. So you are going to worry how to do these things. So Akash 201.
Yes, sir.
Akash, is the idea clear today? What is the subject going to deal about?
So I think the amplifiers, the subject is going to deal about how, which kind of components will be used in order to ensure the processing of the signals.
Not, I would like to put a small correction there. Processing, the word is always associated with baseband, Akash. Okay, when you're going to these companies, and now from 7th sem onwards, I will be a little bit specific. For
Yes, sir.
telling, processing means it goes to baseband. Clear? And you should be clear. Baseband means it is like opening up the cover of the letter and reading the letter. We are worried, Akash, only at the cover level. Do you get it? How to put a good cover and how to send it, clear, and how to receive it and take it out of the cover and give it to the processing part. Is it okay, Akash?
Yes, sir. Then, sir, if we are not processing it, that covering means what exactly are we doing then? That's
Yes,
what
yes.
I'm confused.
No, the idea is we are processing it, but we will call it as we are working at the RF front end. The word processing is by default meant for the signal processing aspects. We are going to see how the amplifier should be there, how many amplifiers should be kept. Is the receiver doing the job correctly? We are going to work at that parameters. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Our work is not, it is also processing, but the word processing is taken away and we call it front end RF activity. Is it okay? This is how industry calls it. Clear? So we don't know why you can call it RF processing and baseband processing. We are at RF processing. We won't be doing too much of signal processing. Our subject is going to combine electronic circuits, transmission line theories, and EM concepts. That is why this subject is kept at the last. Right? So let me just go one step ahead. Thank you, Akash. Thank you. Right. See, as I told you, this subject will not be applicable if you are connecting the transmitter and receiver through a transmission line. Get that idea very clearly. That is called direct baseband communication. Clear? When you connect point A and point B using a TL, then it is baseband transmission. Please understand these terminologies. Baseband transmission. So our subject study is directly towards wireless communication. Is it okay? How to design the front end aspects of wireless communication. Clear? Is the idea clear with everybody? How to design the things in the front end of wireless systems. Front end. I am now going to specific terms. Front end of wireless systems. Is the idea clear to everybody? What we are going to study. Now, next, this thing is still not over. I just bracketed the area in a communication system that you are going to study. Now, why this study on front end is separate? Why is this separate? Why is this so specific? Why is this specific? And its importance. Right. So let me just get somebody into picture. Gautam. Gautam Makula. 205, I think, correct? You are there?
I'm there, sir.
Yeah, Gautam. Can you just tell me why this? Did you tell me what has been discussed in the class now? Just give me a gist.
Like we are going to the antenna side, sir, not through the channel and everything. And we are combining the transmission lines and the techniques like modulation and the amplifiers like that.
Are we going to discuss about modulation, encryption, decryption, this thing, that thing?
No, sir. No, sir.
No. We are going to study the final end aspect where we are going to see how to ready the signal for transmission. Clear? Right. Thank you, Gautam. See, let me just put it like this. Why this front end is important? For example, if you have a mouse and you connect the mouse to a PC through the USB cable, right? Now that USB connector and the PC connector, the devices are standardized, isn't it? Pradith, come into picture.
Yes, sir.
Pradith, this USB connection, are you aware of it? USB connector. You will always get a device that has USB connection, no? Do you understand? Do you feel that?
Yes,
you
sir.
will always see that whether there is an USB port to it. You unknowingly call it like that, correct?
Yes, sir.
Why? Why did you choose like that?
Because it's easier, sir. If we set one standard, it's easier for multiple devices to connect.
Correct. So fundamentally, this front end, if it is not, I think I have said this in class also. If the front end, thank you, Pradit. If the front end is not standardized, Aditya, what will happen? Aditya, do you remember we discussing this point? If that USB thing was not standardized, what would have happened?
Each one will come up with their own standard versions, sir. So it won't be if you're sending and the person receiving will have different. It won't transfer properly, no, sir.
It is difficult for common man. Can you put it like this finally?
Yes.
Right. So entire class. Thank you, Aditya. It's entire class you should understand. Now I have told you what is baseband, front end, both at the transmitter side and at the receiver side. The entire class, the final outcome from today's thing is this front end, that which we have separated, is quite important and it has to be standardized. If it is not standardized, it is going to be a very big problem. The example that I gave you is a wired system, but even in a wireless system, there are some standards to be followed. And that is what we are going to study in this subject. We will not be getting into design of an amplifier per se. Getting the feel there, we will not be getting into design of an amplifier, but we will design upon what the amplifier should be for a specific system. Clear? So the final expectation is the final expectation from the subject. I'm just giving it to you as a conclusion for today's class. Tomorrow again we will be continuing the introductory class. Don't worry. Final expectation of the subject. Right? Consider an application. If you take any application, right, which is of course wireless, we have parameters called which is the frequency, right? What is the maximum distance? Right? And then we can have ideas like is it common man application or scientific? Is it common man application or scientific? Clear? So based on this, based on above parameters, so there are many parameters. Based on above parameters, how to decide? Clear? Amplifier specifications. Getting it? Amplifier specifications. Clear? Antenna specifications. Right? TL connecting antenna and amplifiers. Right? And how to estimate noise. That's all. We can't do anything with noise. Noise will always be there. So how to estimate noise? Provide this information to processing people. Provide this info to baseband processing people. Right, because this is also quite important. Noise cannot be eliminated. You have to understand this. Noise cannot be eliminated. Right? We can only be aware of it. We can only be aware and try to reduce it. Getting it? So this is the idea. Now is the idea clear? So if don't be worried that we'll be discussing about amplifier biasing, this, that and all. No, nothing like that. If you have a wireless system application, then you will have to worry about many things like this. Clear? Now based on those things, what is the best possible amplifier? What are the antenna specifications that has to be used? What are the transmission line specifications that have to be used? And how? And the last thing is when we connect TL amps, amplifiers and antenna, right? Is the system working correctly? Is the system working? I will not put correctly, as per expectations. Clear? Right. So this is what we are going to worry. Clear? So this we'll just slowly stop today's class. This is the idea. I'm just trying to, don't worry of too much things. Slowly get the feel of what we are going to study. We are going to study only say some 10% of some intro new concepts. After that, it will be back to transmission lines and electronic circuits. Getting it? So this idea, you should have it in clear. So if you take an example of DTH system, right? So you have an antenna at the top of the house, clear, and then you have a cable, and then you have a set-top box, clear, and the set-top box feeds to the TV, clear. So this is your our interest, right? This is fully baseband. Hope everybody is aware now, clear of what we are going to study. Is the idea clear? Janani, is the idea clear?
Yeah, I could.
Yes, sir.
நம்ம என்ன படிக்க போறோம்னு தெரிஞ்சதா? We are not going to study again transmission lines in detail, but if the application is DTH, what should be the transmission line? What should be their kind of characteristic impedance? All those things. Getting it?
Yes, sir.
And after connecting all these things, how it will work. So we'll stop here. Has anybody got any clarifications in today's class? The class is officially stopped, but has anybody got any clarifications regarding the introductory concepts as to what you can expect from this subject? If you have any questions, I'll be ready. If I'm able to tell it now, I'll tell it now, or tomorrow also we have the class, or not tomorrow, Monday we have the class. We'll do it. So is the idea clear? What to expect? Leave out the textbooks, course outcomes, course objectives, that all will follow. Get the feel of what you are going to study. Is it okay? Praveen.
Yes, sir.
Praveen, is the idea okay today? What you can expect in this?
Yes, sir.
Saket.
Yes.
Saket.
Yes, sir. Clear,
Is the
sir.
idea clear?
Yes, sir.
What should be done? At least preliminary thing. Don't take many things in a single way. Abhishek. 216 Abhishek.
Yes, sir. Clear, sir.
Clear. Mridula, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Hemant, 221. Hemant. Anybody? So nobody has any doubts today. Terrific. What is this? Okay. If nobody has any doubts, we'll wind up the class. The recording is available, and start referring the OneNote where I will be uploading the things. Is it okay? Right. The class is officially over. Thank you. We'll meet in the next class. I'm not yet familiar with the timetable. Anyway, we'll meet in the next class. Go through the notes and be ready. Thank you. And again, if anybody has doubts, feel free to clarify, please.